No, that's better. Yeah, so
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Travel Escapes. This is a special episode. It's actually our 50th webinar that we've been doing, so it's been very exciting. I'm Rhonda Svian, the Leisure Manager at Paul Travel, and of course, my beautiful co-host, Julie Beck-Dash. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Rhonda, and welcome, everybody.
So over the last several months, we've been showcasing some amazing countries from around the world, and it's been a lot of fun exploring these really great destinations. And you know, I think both Julie and I feel that what makes a memorable trip is really the kind of experiences that you have, and it really sets those memories, and it just creates such a great overall experience. So today we're going to feature just that. And really, what better way to celebrate Earth Day than bringing a little virtual visit from a wildlife sanctuary. So I'm super excited, and I hope you all are too. Now, just before I turn this over to Julie to introduce our fabulous guests, and you could probably hear a little noise, and there's a little guy that was wanting to make his screen appearance, so we'll see him shortly. Next week is our webinar is going to be on Japan. That's April 29th at 4 p.m. And also, don't forget, if you've missed any of our previous webinars, you're going to find them listed on our Paul Travel website. So be sure to check them out. Now, today is a little bit of a different format for those of you that have been with us previously. If you have any questions or comments throughout the presentation today, please put them in the Q&A box or the chat box, and we will make sure they get answered right away. So it's a little bit of a different webinar today, and I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions. So there's no need to save them to the very end. I know I probably will, and I'm going to try not to have a lot of oohs and ahs today because I'm sure I will, but really looking forward to it. So Julie, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rhonda. And I'm going to be the same way. I have lots of questions and lots of oohs and ahs coming. Today, I wanted to introduce you to Greg Irons. He's with Bonorong Wildlife Sanctuary, one of our great partners in Australia. So he's joining us right from the beautiful island of Tasmania. I love Greg's story. When he first visited Bonorong as a 7-year-old boy, he said he went back home and he told his mom, I'm going to own this place one day. And then sure enough, as he finished school, he started working at Bonorong. And once it was time for the owners to retire, they passed the baton on to Greg, and he just has such a passion for the animals and wildlife, and changed it from being more of a traditional wildlife park to make it more innovative and active wildlife sanctuary. So I'll hand it over to you, Greg, and you just take it away. And again, let us know if you have any questions, everyone, and we'll ask them along the way. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you very much. Thank you, team. And look, we get so excited to do these things. I think obviously we're all in extraordinary times at the moment, and you just don't realise how much you miss our friends from all over the world. You know, we're not hearing accents running around and people getting excited. And so look, we can't wait to have you all back. And certainly some of the animals here, like our first little guy that we'll meet in just a moment, he's missing you big time as well. So look, we are in beautiful Tasmania. You can probably see a little bit of the sort of backdrop behind me there. It's a really, really beautiful part of the world. So for those who don't know Tassie well, basically a small island at the very bottom of Australia. Look, the main part of Australia call themselves the mainland, but in Tasmania we call Tasmania the mainland. So it's a really beautiful spot with incredible forests, with incredible wildlife. It's peaceful, it's quiet, it's very rare to see a traffic jam, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful place to live. But of course, for people who love wildlife, there just is no better place to be in the world. And a tiny bit on Bonorong, we basically run the rescue service in Tasmania. So when an animal is injured or in many cases in Australia orphaned, that's where we can spring into action and try to help the animals out. So last year, about 13,500 animals needed our assistance. That number is sadly growing every single year. But it's a beautiful business model where the way we fund saving those animals, aside from a few sponsorships, of course, is through our guests coming through the sanctuary. So when people can come and visit the animals that we have here, that basically pays to save an animal. So we really love that model where everyone who comes through our gates is a part of our family and a part of our team. So we really do love that model. And of course, not all animals can go back to the wild. While that's our number one aim, some will, of course, have permanent injuries. Some are part of important breed and release. Note the word release programs. We're always aiming to get them back to the wild. And, of course, adding to that, they're very loud birds around today. And adding to that is, of course, that some animals we really don't know until we hold them for a while. So we're going to take a bit of time to meet a few of the special little creatures today. And I'm going to introduce over here Melissa. Melissa is one of our head keepers, my fiance, so she's very, very patient as well, and very unlucky, some might say too. But Melissa's going to help us today with the cameras, and she helps us. She lives on site here with me and receives animals at all times of day or night. So I'm going to hand the camera over her to flip it around while we meet our first little creature. There we go. Oh. Hello, my friend. All right, so the first little guy we're going to meet today, it might take him a little while to come up and join us. This is Lenny the wombat. So Lenny here, believe it or not, even at this size, is still a baby wombat. So unfortunately, his mother was hit by a car, which is why he's here with us. So I'm sure you're all aware of kangaroos having a pouch or a pocket for their babies. The truth is that most of the animals in Tasmania that have fur also are marsupial and have a pouch for their young. So animals like wombats, Tasmanian devils, bandicoots, possums, quolls, they're all sorts of different species of marsupial. And so what that means is when an animal is injured or a mother is hurt or killed on the roads, so often there is a baby that's tucked up safely inside the pouch that we can then attempt to raise and release back to the wild. And Lenny is one of those cases. So he came to us, what size was he, Mel?
800 grams.
800 grams, there you go. So about 800 grams of wombat when he arrived. So he was less than a kilogram. So what's that? Just about 2 pounds, I guess, in weight. So at the moment he's about 22 pounds or 10 kilos. So when he is fully grown, he will be around about 90 pounds. So we have a long way to go before he's fully grown. Now, this is the longest living marsupial in the world. So this animal here will hopefully live for maybe 20 or even 25 years with a little bit of luck out in the wild, which is one of the reasons that they're a little bit slower to grow and to reach sexual maturity. Now, that little face there, as you can see, is extremely cute at the moment. This face, I mean, not this face, this one. Very, very cute at the moment. But look, what the most amazing part is about raising a wombat is that they become wild all by themselves. Okay, so most of the animals that we are rehabilitating to put back in the wild, when we're housing them or looking after them, we don't have them on display, interacting with guests, I guess, because it's not the best thing for the animal. However, for these guys, they actually need attention. And as you can see, they absolutely thrive on that attention. But even more amazingly is in about probably 5 months' time, this little guy here will decide that he does not like us anymore. He will decide it's time to become independent. And the way that he tells us that is to attack us. Okay, so he will start to headbutt us, bite us, claw us, you name it. He'll get very aggressive. And in the wild, that's exactly what he does with his mum, is he attacks her and chases her away. And essentially that's him saying, Mum, I'm a teenager, but I'm ready to go back to the wild. Okay, so look, they're fascinating animals. They're burrowing animals. So this little fella here will dig burrows that are about 20 metres in length, so very, very long burrows. They'll be about 2 metres deep underground. And within that burrow system, there are bedrooms, there are lounge rooms, there are turning circles. And look, there is even temperature control. So bear with me on that one. I know that sounds ridiculous. What the wombats do is they have rooms at different heights underground. So depending on the temperature, obviously the higher they are, the warmer it will be, the lower they are, the cooler it will be. So they can select the temperature that they're after and go about their business. Now, that face is cute. And the last thing I want to share on this little wombat is that my favourite part isn't actually the face. The most fascinating bit of the wombat is actually the bottom. Okay, everything about their bottom is fascinating. I know you're all thinking I'm a bit strange at this point, but bear with me, I promise. Fascinating. Okay, the first thing I want to mention is when they go to the toilet, they do perfect cube-shaped poos. Okay, so it's literally like a little square block. Up until about probably a year and a half ago, it was a scientific mystery as to how they actually did this. But they've now found out there are some muscles right at the end of one of the intestines that shape their feces. Now, the reason they have square poos is so they can put them on top of high things and they don't roll away. So when they're marking out their territory in one night, they might drop 150 of these cubes and put them all over high points and say, this is my territory. Okay, but even more fascinating about their backside is their defense system. When a wombat is threatened, it can run really fast, but only for a short distance. Okay, they can sprint for about 100 metres. In fact, they'd win a gold medal in the Olympics in the 100-metre sprint. Okay, but by about 150 metres, they're getting very tired and their speed drops dramatically. So when they're running from a predator, their aim is to dash back to a burrow, but rather than go inside and hide where a dog or a dingo might follow them, they decide to just block the burrow up and they leave their backside sticking out of the hole. Okay, so basically you're just going to see a wombat bottom in a hole. And what that means, of course, is that they will probably get bitten on the bottom by that predator. So what they have is a very, very unique defense there. So I'm going to stand up here and see if we can hear this. All right, have a bit of a listen. I'll do it once more. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can hear that or not, but as you can see, doesn't bother him in the slightest. So what he has there is a defensive plate, a very hard plate. So basically, if an animal bites at that, it won't hurt him. But if an animal manages to push past that plate when he's in the burrow, he will use that plate and start slamming the head against the top of the burrow. So this cute little cuddly animal here can actually kill a dog or a dingo with a single blow by crushing its skull against the top of the burrow. Okay, so as a general rule, the cuter it looks, the more it hurts. Okay, very, very good rule to remember. So look, that's my little friend Lenny. He is having a delightful time here having a cuddle. He doesn't want to go and I don't want to go, but we have to go. So I'm going to pop him back down. All right, fella. Yeah. I know. I'll be back. I'll nab that and swap him over for a moment. Thank you. All right, there we go. So now is a good time for any questions, team, if you have got any, as we just head towards the Devils. If not, I'll tell you some more information.
Greg, I'm just curious, how many different types of wombats are there? Because some of them look different, have a different face.
Yeah, that's right. So there are 3 different types. So that one's known as the bare-nosed wombat. And the big difference is with them that they're completely solitary. So they live totally on their own. And then there is the hairy-nosed wombats. So there is a southern hairy-nosed wombat and a northern hairy-nosed wombat. The big difference with them is that they live in family groups. Okay, so they're a social animal rather than solitary. Sadly, both of those hairy-nosed species are very endangered at this stage and needing a lot of help. The bare-nosed wombat is still doing quite well at the moment, which is really nice to be able to say about a species because we just don't hear that very often. They struggle a bit with mange, is a problem. As well as being hit by cars and being attacked by dogs are certainly probably their main issues that they face.
Okay.
Beautiful. Any other questions before we jump into the devils?
I don't think so. You answered ours. Who are the predators and if they're plentiful? That's great. Did you have one, Rhonda? Okay.
Cool. So just to mention with the predators too, just keeping in mind that in Tasmania, we used to have the Tasmanian tiger. So that was like our apex predator, I guess. It was a marsupial that roamed all over Australia and was our #1 predator, which is sadly now extinct. So that would have been a predator for the wombat, but now they don't have any native predators once they're above about 3 or 4 kilograms. So really, yeah, it's really human activity can play a huge part on their future. Is a really big one. Right, I'm going to pass you back over to Mel here and jump in with one of our devil friends. Come over here a little bit, shall we? Hello, darling. All right, so I'd like to introduce you next to a Tasmanian Devil. It's just a good spot.
Okay.
Cool. All right, so look, the Tassie Devil comes with quite a reputation there. I'm not sure what you good folks have heard about them in the past, but you know what we hear regularly is they're made out to be really ferocious, really smelly and dirty, really, really good hunters, and all sorts of things we hear about them. And I want you to forget everything you've heard about a Tassie Devil up to now, and we will start again. The truth is, as you can see here, if this was a really dangerous animal, I simply couldn't sit here like this. Yes, they do have very strong jaws, which we'll get to in a moment. But the truth is, in the wild, they are very, very shy creatures. And in fact, you very rarely see them. Even when their numbers were a lot higher than they are now, which was within our lifetime, you still just really, really rarely would see them because they don't want to be anywhere near us. So they're not an animal to be feared at all. No recorded attacks on people ever before or anything like that. They're a solitary animal that keeps to themselves. And, you know, just because they eat meat doesn't make them a hunter. Okay, I think if we obviously look at the animals that we do know well, a lot of people know what a hyena is in Africa. And essentially, if you look at a Tasmanian devil, that was Australia's hyena. So our scavenger that goes around and cleans up all the leftover carcasses. And essentially their job is to be the vacuum cleaner of the forest. Okay, that's their main role. So this little lady here is named Callie. Okay, now Callie is one that Melissa and I hand raised. Her mum unfortunately died from facial tumour disease, which is a disease that's affecting devils really quite badly at the moment that I'll mention at the end of this section. Okay, but being hand raised, she's obviously remained very friendly. She's got a cold nose and tucking herself up. Taking yourself over there. You need to show them your beautiful face, silly. I'll try and turn sideways so you get a better view. She's latched onto my jumper there. All right, so now Callie here, she actually doesn't realise how special she is. If we were raising an animal for release back to the wild, this is obviously not how we would raise the animal. But we work very closely with the Save the Tasmanian Devil program, which is a great organisation working really hard to save this magnificent species. And one of the things that's been highlighted is when we hand raise the little tiny baby devils, that a number were having problems with cataracts in their eyes, and they were having issues with kidney problems and things when they were being raised from a really small age. And one of the reasons that we've identified that may have been is because there's no specific formula or milk formula that has been made to suit a devil's needs when we hand raise them. So all around Tasmania, if there are orphaned ones, some people use something called Divetilact, others will use kangaroo milk to raise them, when really every species has a very different composition of milk for their young. And devils are no exception. So in working with the Save the Tasmanian Devil program, what we decided to do with this young female here is keep her as friendly as we possibly can. Now, she's not like this with everyone. She is with Melissa and I because we're her parents, essentially. But with most people, she'll be a little bit pushy. But as you can see, she's very, very friendly and very affectionate. So what we hope to do is breed her. And when she has some tiny little young in her pouch, we will basically be able to just hold her, collect a tiny little milk sample every 2 weeks. We'll get that milk sample analysed every 2 weeks. And then we can basically look at how the composition of milk changes and develop a devil-specific formula that will help raise hundreds and thousands of devils for years to come. And as the only hand-raised female that's suitable for the study at the moment, she has no idea how important she really is. So we will be, as I always say, we'll be introducing her to only the most gentlemanly, very best-looking Tasmanian Devil males that we have. So that way she will have absolute pick of the stand. So I think she's a lucky girl. I'm not sure if she's a lucky girl or not. Now, a couple of amazing facts on devils, the things you might not know. So when they are born ridiculously small. Okay, we are talking the size of 1 grain of rice when they're first born. I just want to give you a second to think about that. 1 tiny grain of rice. The gestation period or the pregnancy is only 18 to 21 days. So all marsupials are born really small, but for a devil, it's just next level. So a little grain of rice, which incredibly has sense of smell, they use that sense of smell to guide their way up to the pouch. They suckle onto the mum's teat, which will swell up and chock their mouth full, and then they're nice and secure and stuck in the pouch. Now, that journey from being born to making your way to the pouch is a very treacherous one. And to be honest, most devils that are ever born will never make it to the pouch. It's a very short life for most of them. So the mum obviously it's very important for her to pass on her genetics. So the mum, to counter the fact that so many will not make it to the pouch, she gives birth to loads of babies at once in the hope that a few make it. So this little lady here will give birth to some 20 to 40, so 20 to 40, 20 to 40 babies in one go. And then basically only the strongest, fittest, most perfect devils will make it to the pouch. And look, the average to actually survive is only 2.8. Okay, so it's a very, very small survival rate for them. So they go for volume rather than quality. Quantity, not quality. Okay, so it's an incredible start to life for them. And look, the wombat we just met is the size of a jelly bean when they're born. A kangaroo is about the size of a jelly bean. Okay, but this little lady here being the size of a grain of rice is really just quite amazing. Now, in terms of their lifestyles, even though they are carnivorous and they're meat eaters, they're not very good hunters. No one has told them that they're not very good hunters. So every single night, devils go out and they think, I'm going to go out hunting, and they just happen to find a carcass before they manage to catch anything. So while they do try and hunt every night, and every now and then they will have some luck, if we look at their skills, first of all, they're very slow. The average top speed of a devil is only 14 kilometres an hour, which is about the same as a chicken, to give you an idea. So very, very slow. Their eyesight is really poor as well. They can only see about 6 feet in front of their face clearly. And look, add to that, they have no agility whatsoever. They're like a staffy dog on steroids, really. So this is not an animal with the body shape or the skills to be an efficient hunter. So what they really have focused their skills on is being a good scavenger. And the skills they have is, number one, an incredible ability to travel long distances. So their endurance is just amazing. This little lady here, if she was out in the wild, she might travel up to 50 kilometres in one night looking for food. So this incredibly long journey. If they find food, they will stuff themselves full and they have the ability to gorge feed. So this little lady can fit some 40% of her body weight. So 40% of this in her stomach at one time. And to be honest, when they do gorge feed, it looks exactly as you think it would. They look like a big beach ball with legs. And of course, as a scavenger, that's really important. When you find food, you make the very most of it, because it might be 4 or 5 days before you find food again. Okay, and the other thing that's so crucial for them is their jaw strength. If you're a scavenger, you have to take every opportunity. And if you come across a carcass and something else has already eaten all the good bits, but there's still some food left, well, you've got to eat what's left. So the jaw strength is about 1 ton of pressure per cubic inch, which makes them capable of eating any bone that they can fit their mouth around and get to the back of their teeth. Okay, so something like a human wrist bone, for example, they can actually chew through that, no problems at all. Okay, and something like a fully grown wombat, like we just met, a 90-pound wombat, they can eat every single last bit except for the very top of the skull, because the shape of the bone prevents them getting it in the right spot. So they are unbelievable jaw strength, but thankfully it's not used for hunting or playing. That's just used for crunching bones when they come across them. Okay, so look, I could talk on these guys all day, and obviously you're getting the idea. They are such a unique animal, and look, in Tasmania, we're so proud of them because they once roamed all over Australia, but they are now only here in Tasmania. So they're I guess, a really good example of why Tasmania is so special. I consider us the Noah's Ark of Australian wildlife. We have a whole lot of species here that without that bridge of water between us and mainland Australia, keeping us safe from the threats they have over there, there'd be a whole lot more animals that would now be extinct. So the Tassie Devil, the Tasmanian paddymmelon, soon to be the eastern barred bandicoot, the eastern quoll, these are all species that now only reside on our beautiful island. So we have a huge responsibility to keep those animals safe. Safer than our jumpers. We go through a few jumpers over time. The biggest concern I've got right now is how I'm going to get her off that jumper because she has not let go of that spot for the entire talk. So we'll see how we go. I've already mentioned the jaw strength. Now, last but certainly not least, of course, is the threats that our Tasmanian devils are facing. I'm sure a number of you have heard of Tasmanian devil facial tumour disease, and if you haven't, I'd encourage you to look it up on the internet and get some more information. But essentially, about 26 or 27 years ago, a Tassie devil showed up with large growths or tumours on its face. Devils are very prone to tumours, so it wasn't too concerning, I guess, for the general public. It just was one that was unlucky. About 6 years later, so only six years, 50% of the population was gone. So it was an incredibly rapid decline. Look, at this point, we don't really know exactly how many are left, but it's estimated somewhere around 10,000. But 10,000 on an island is very, very low numbers. One thing can wipe the rest of them out really quickly. So there is no cure for the disease. And while there's people working on it all over the world, and there's been some really fantastic breakthroughs recently, unfortunately, most of them that catch the disease will die. We're aware of a few that have fought the disease off naturally just in the very, very recent times, which hopefully tells us Mother Nature is developing some sort of immunity or way to deal with this disease. However, the problem is, aside from that one disease, there's now a whole second disease called devil facial tumour disease 2. Now, the original disease started with one single devil, and we know that because we can find her DNA or her genetics in every single tumour cell in every devil that catches it, whereas DFTD2 is a second set of genetics. So the future's up in the air. We have to be aware that they still get hit by cars. They eat other roadkill, then they get hit themselves. We have to be aware of dog attacks. We have to be aware of secondary poisoning, and we need everyone doing their bit to save this unbelievably important species for our state. Now I'm going to see if she lets me pick her up here and let's go. I'll try to give you a closer look. She's not letting go. Hey, look. Here we go. Look, it's your mum. Okay, so I'm hoping, whoop, we let go. Good girl. There you go. So this is beautiful Callie, folks. Have a look at that face. Have a look at the whiskers. The whiskers are absolutely amazing. Huge, big whiskers because they don't have great eyesight. Now I'm going to pop her down while I've got the opportunity and she's not biting onto me so I can escape. There we go. Thank you. Thank you.
She's so adorable.
Hey, how nice is she? Does that change your point of view on Tassie Devils a bit?
Absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, they're not the animal people make them out to be. And I think, when we see media and TV shows about them, they all love to show the violence, the hustle and the bustle. And, that unfortunately violence sells. And, when two devils have something that one of them want, absolutely, they'll get right in each other's faces and they scream and they yell and they hiss and they carry on. But the truth is they don't actually bite each other. It's like a vocalization competition. If they did with that jaw strength, they'd be killing each other. So the name Tasmanian Devil, I should mention, came from the first Europeans that came to Australia. They basically heard the devil screaming at the top of their lungs and they did not know what it was. So they wrote in their writing that Tasmania was haunted with demons, devils and banshees. Okay, so this is many years ago. And so the name devil was given before they were ever seen and it just stuck. So that's how that came about. Absolutely amazing. Are there any questions there as well at the moment, or are we rolling on?
Greg, there's a few people wondering, what do you feed Callie and the other Tassie devils?
Look, mainly misbehaving tourists from Northern America. That's the main thing.
Canadians.
Oh, that's it. They just love tourist flesh. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Look, they're a scavenger, so they eat anything. In the wild, if they find a worm, they'll eat it. If they find a dead cow, they will eat it. So they're opportunistic. So our ones, they do get a lot of rabbit. But of course, running the like if we see fresh roadkill, for example, that's a good thing to feed them because it saves obviously taking another animal. But really, they eat any form of meat they come across.
Okay. So people will donate, like if they see roadkill, we'll go pick it up and you can feed it to them.
Yeah, look, absolutely.
Oh.
And look, to be perfectly honest with you, we don't hide this fact either. With the rescue service, of course, we get a lot of animals that come in that have injuries that can't be fixed. And we have animals that, while we're trying to treat them, might pass away and that sort of thing. And rather than just go and throw them, in the bush, we'll absolutely use them as food because that's the devil's role, is they eat those animals in the wild. So, and of course, any opportunity we have to, to not take a life, of course, we're always going to take that opportunity. So that works really well to feed them up. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. I think that's all
Wonderful
we have right now. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, the next one we're going to show you is not a Tasmanian. Okay, but a very beautiful Australian. We're just going to have a quick 2-minute look because I've just noticed that one of our favourites, the echidna, is actually out and about. So we're just going to have a really quick look at the koala here and then we'll dash to the echidna from there. I don't think I pressed that properly, sorry. Good morning. This here is a koala doing what he does best. This is a koala at work, having the hardest part of his day, which is sitting there doing nothing. Let me introduce you to Bert. Now, Bert was a bit of a surprise addition to our team here at the sanctuary. We were actually asked to take another koala on because she was a bit of a welfare issue where she was. And while our main focus is Tasmanian wildlife, we felt she couldn't be left where she was. So we agreed to take her on to help out the government. And lo and behold, about 3 months later, we saw a little arm hanging out of the pouch. So she actually arrived here with a baby in her pouch. And that was Bert's arm. So Bert was a surprise addition, but a couple of quick facts on them. Laziest animal in Australia and proud to be the laziest animal in Australia. Sleep for 18 to 20 hours a day, eat for 4 hours a day, and move on average for 5 to 15 minutes a day. So they really don't get up to too much. Our closest living relative is actually a wombat, so very closely related. You can probably see the shape of the head and the general body shape. But look, my most fascinating part for this animal is this is not an animal that has a body shape to live in a tree, yet they do it so successfully. What they did is they saw a niche by heading up and eating eucalyptus as a food source, and they took it and they've adapted their whole lifestyle to eat this food. Okay, very low in energy, very, very high in toxins. And basically they have adapted their entire even internal system to be able to eat eucalyptus. Main thing is though they have no competition for food, so it's a great food choice as well. Now the adaptations that they've made is, number one, they have what's called a cecum, which is a 2-metre long organ that's full of a specialised bacteria that eats the toxins before they process the food. So it's essentially strains out the toxins before it reaches them and then affects them. So it's a very unique adaptation so they can exclusively eat this food. They have also need to save energy wherever they can. So they obviously sleep a lot. But the other thing they've done is evolved to have the smallest brain compared to body size of any marsupial in the world. This little guy here only has a brain the size of a walnut, and that is simply to save energy. Okay, a human brain uses about 25% of our daily intake of energy a day goes towards running our brains. And for this bloke who eats, sleeps, and moves a little bit, whose main job is to be extremely good looking, he really doesn't need the brain. So he saves that energy by running a very small brain. And look, one other quick fact about them, the word koala actually means no drink. Okay, it's an Aboriginal word. This guy here is sitting at about 10 years old, and I've never seen him come to the ground to drink. Okay, even though he has a water bowl over there, he gets all his moisture from the nice young leaves, and that's enough to sustain him. Because in the wild, if he's at 30 metres up a eucalypt tree or 40 metres up a eucalypt tree, coming all the way down to the ground to get a drink will burn all of his energy, and he's also very much at threat from predators when he's on the ground. if he can stay up in the trees and ideally go from tree to tree through overlapping branches in the trees, he can get all his food, get all his water. He can mate in the trees as well. The young can be raised in the trees, and that's where he wants to be. So incredibly adapted animal. Doesn't really do his bit around here. He just likes his food hand delivered twice a day, if we're being honest. But you know, look, as we've said to many people, when you look this good, you can pretty much get away with anything, I think. So, right, we'll head towards our little echidnas there. There we go. All right, heading to our echidnas. Any questions there? Oh.
Greg, I'm just kind of wondering how many koalas are actually in your area?
So in our area, there are none, absolutely zero. So in Tasmania, they never actually made it here.
Okay.
So we've got 2 at the moment. But when Bass Strait was above sea level, so the body of water that separates Tasmania from Melbourne or Victoria, when that was above sea level, it's believed that the eucalypts that grew there were the wrong type that koalas don't eat. So it was very swampy. So it was basically like a wall of no food for the koalas. So they never actually made it down here. So no fossils ever been here. However, they would thrive if they were here. But of course, as we know, we don't release animals where they've never been because that can cause a myriad of other environmental issues as well. So, and look, around Australia, probably their biggest issue is habitat loss. You know, there's not enough food for them. So instead of eating just the nice, juicy young leaves, which is what they're meant to eat, they're having to eat the older leaves, which can kill the tree as well. So planting trees, planting trees, planting trees. That's what we need to do, and also obviously keep them safe from dogs and cars and things like that. Who's over here before? Oh, cool. Any other questions there?
Greg, just one. The koala is similar to the wombat, where its bottom is hard, right? Like if it falls from the tree, it's
yeah, that's right. Well, it's not so much for falling. I've never seen a koala fall before, but what they've done is they've adapted the plate a little bit. So the wombat's more for defense. What a koala's done is they've shaped it into sort of a V shape. So it slots into the fork of a tree, and that avoids them getting a numb bottom. You imagine sitting in the fork of a tree all day, how sore you'd be when you stood up. So their cartilage plate is more like a portable cushion, I guess.
Okay, interesting. Perfect.
Yeah.
I think so.
Now I'm going to dash onto our little echidna there. I'll just pass over to Melissa. Thank you very much. So this little guy here, he's going to realise what's over here in a second and come on over. This is one of our most unique animals and the one that we'll wrap up with today. To be honest, there are so many animals I'd love to show you folks today. I'd love to take you around for a good few hours. We've got so much more to see in Tassie, but these are just some of our favourites. Now I'd like to introduce you here to Randall. Okay, now Randall here is a short-beaked echidna. Okay, so that is spelled E-C-H, oh dear, I-D-N-A. E-C-H-I-D-N-A. That's it, got it. So echidna, so we have had people say, oh, is this the echinida? That's obviously not how we say it. Come here, fella. Hey. Yeah, I've got yummies, see? Just taking a second to realise what's going on now. Randall here is a fantastic little echidna. He unfortunately was attacked by a dog. That's why he's here with us. Now, he's missing his front right leg, which is why he stays in our care. And we also have another one in here called Luigi, who is missing his back leg after a dog attack as well. I'm going to get low with my little friend here. Hello. Now, echidnas are a monotremes, so they're basically a freak of nature. This is an egg-laying mammal, okay, which is obviously not something you find very often. Mate, the food's up here. What are you doing? There you go. He's being a bit silly this morning. So this is an egg-laying mammal. Now, what's quite amazing about them is how prehistoric they are. They haven't changed for many, many, many years. So while they don't have a pouch like, say, a marsupial does, they have a fold of skin that works a little bit like a pouch. So they lay a soft-shelled egg, and that is then deposited into the pouch or the fold of skin, and that's how they incubate that egg. And then the egg will hatch, and they'll carry around a tiny little baby for a very, very short period of time. And then they go and put that baby underground in a nursery. because they do dig little burrows as well. And what's quite incredible is the mum will then go off on feeding frenzies, and she might not see that baby for 4 or 5 days at a time. It's a nice stable temperature being underground, so the baby just sits there and waits patiently, but everything about an echidna is different. Obviously, most mammals have nipples or teats to feed their young. These ones haven't even evolved those. They're so prehistoric. They just have patches of skin on their belly that we call milk patches. And when the baby licks those areas, like Randall here is licking the spoon, they just start to secrete the milk through those milk patches and the babies lap it up. Now, these spines here, this is being a Tasmanian echidna, he's got a much more woolly coat than the ones you might see on the mainland. There are spines all over his back here, just underneath the fur. Now, these spines are modified hair, so they're not as sharp as they look. The smaller echidnas tend to have sharper sort of little spines, but obviously that's their defense system, is when they're threatened, they will just burrow themselves into the ground and leave those spikes exposed, and that's meant to keep them nice and safe. Okay, so their back feet are quite fascinating in that they're almost backwards pointing. So when they need to burrow, if you imagine a swimmer doing breaststroke, that's how they burrow. They pull the back feet in and they just bore straight down into the ground. And that's a good way of locking themselves in so a predator can't get them out. And so, of course, if an echidna is missing a leg, that's a big problem for being able to burrow and keep themselves safe. But look, a couple more just quick facts on them. They have an incredible life expectancy. They live for over 50 years, these guys. So we don't know exactly how long they live for because we haven't sort of done the researches yet. But there's a couple being tracked that we know are over 50 at this stage. So an incredibly long life. And from a rehabilitation point of view, they are just great battlers. Okay, they're so hardy and so strong. We've had some incredible recoveries from injuries that we didn't think they would survive, and we've managed to get them back out to the wild, which is really wonderful. And as you can see with this big long tongue here, they're anteaters. So we're not seeing that tongue in full force at the moment. It's about 20 centimetres long, so they can shove that into ants' nests and pull the ants out. And they don't chew. On the top of that beak there are little ridges. And what they do is once the ant is on their tongue, they will roll the tongue across those little ridges, and that's what crunches the ant up. And it's almost like us chewing. Okay, it's so again, everything about them is just a little bit unique and a little bit prehistoric, because obviously a lot of animals have evolved to suit the current needs and environment, whereas what these guys do works, so you just don't change it. Now, I know I said that this would be our last one, but I realised we haven't seen any birds, and I think we should just quickly dash to the tawny frogmouths because I'd love to show you them. One of my favourite bird species, and they're just down the way here. So I'm going to try and get myself up off the ground and answer a couple more questions as we go. And Mel will just show you little Luigi's just coming over to try and join the party. He sort of missed the party a bit. It's very early for them here. So Luigi's actually missing a back leg.
Aww.
All right. All right, so there we go. So our lucky last one we've got is the tawny frogmouths. We can do some questions as well on the way there.
Yeah, sure, Greg. So did you say that the echidnas are nocturnal?
Look, they're a bit strange. They can wake up at day and night. So they just sort of pick when they're hungry and what the weather's doing and all that sort of thing. Because as you'll probably understand, if it's really wet and raining, a lot of ants will take shelter, which is their main food source. So, if suddenly the rain clears and they need to get some snacks, then they might head out of an evening. So we did some research in a really beautiful part of Tasmania called the Tawny, which is the world's second largest cool temperate rainforest in the southern hemisphere, and that's in Tasmania. So we did some extensive Tassie Devil research up there for 5 years, and we were catching echidnas on our motion censored cameras at all sorts of different times. But traditionally, they'll probably be out more during the daytime. Thank you. They'll be out more during the daytime, and to be honest, they're not hard to see in the wild in Tasmania. So it's quite, it's quite an experience to come across one in the wild. And I think that's what I love about Tasmania most is the areas that you go. You step outside in the evening, and you'll just see wildlife. It's such a blessing to live so close with these animals. We've rescued Tassie Devil in the middle of Hobart, a platypus in the middle of Hobart. It's incredible how close we get to live with these guys. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Any other questions before we meet the Tawny frogmouths?
Just a quick and last question. Are the echidnas related to hedgehogs? Do you know?
Yeah, look, a lot of. I'm just going to flip you up for 1 second there and just check we're not on. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Oh, lost our screen. Sorry, 1 second there. My apologies for that. No, they're not actually. Yeah, look, a lot of people refer to them as hedgehogs, but very, very different. So, as a monotreme, their closest relative is actually a platypus. So they're the only other monotreme species. And so there's the short-beaked echidna and the long-beaked. And the long-beaked echidna was thought extinct for about 70 or 80 years, and then was found again about 10 years ago. Yeah, cruising around, which was really exciting. So yeah, but no, they're a species all in itself. Very hard to compare to any other species because they're so unique.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Beautiful. I'm going to flip you around, and we'll just have a quick meeting here of the Tawny frogmouth. So they do look a lot like a tree. So I'm going to step out of the way, and I'll get Melissa can take you up close there. Okay, so there's 4 Tawny frogmouths there. So we've got one here, 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 and here, all sitting close together. Now, Tawny frogmouths, as the name would suggest, they have a very large mouth. And despite the fact that they look a lot like an owl, they're actually not an owl. Okay, they are their own little species. What they do is they open their mouths really, really wide, and they open their mouths really wide, and when they're hunting, they'll literally just fly through the air and just grab things mid-flight. Okay, so catching their food on the wing, so to speak. So look, obviously their eyesight and their efficiency is really, really important. The reason these 4 are here is because they're all blind in one eye. Okay, so they're the ideal sort of animal that can stay with us and live a really happy life. Their depth perception is quite badly affected when they're missing an eye. So if you've got to catch things while flying, that's a major issue. Now, it's probably a good time to mention that most animals that we rescue are obviously not suited to be put in a captive facility. And that's something we're really strict about, is that certain species are very suited to living in an environment like this and very relaxed, even to a point of breeding. So we've got a couple of pairs here that actually breed at the sanctuary, and we can release their young back to the wild, which is really exciting and doing a service for them. Okay, but obviously most animals, if they've been wild their whole life and have a permanent injury, number one, they could be in chronic pain. And number 2, they could just live a really happy life in an enclosure, an unhappy life in an enclosure. Having said that, ones that come in really young that we can work with that grow up that way really genuinely love it, to the point that if we leave a door open by accident, they escape, most of them will just come straight back. Okay, so, we are very fussy about which species are suitable and which ones aren't. And this is one of those species that they can come in as a completely wild adult, and within a handful of days of sort of force feeding them to keep them alive, they go, gee, this is pretty good. And they see you coming and just start opening their mouths for food. So it's really quite an incredible transformation they can make to suit to a captive life. Now, the other thing is we can analyse how happy they are really easily. When a Tawny frogmouth is unhappy or is threatened, they will pretend to be a tree. So at the moment, they're in a completely relaxed pose, which shows that they're happy. If they're not happy, they will elongate themselves and become a lot more cylindrical, and they'll sit out on a branch like this, and they just stand really, really still, and they just pretend to be a part of a broken tree. So the little feathers that are just on top of the beak are designed to look like a snapped off piece of branch. Okay, so look, they're a really fascinating species, and they live all around Tasmania. You'll see them right in the middle of Hobart sometimes. Do a great job getting rid of some of the mosquitoes and things around the place. Not as good as our bats, of course, but they do a marvellous job. And yeah, very, very easy to spot in the wild if you know what you're looking for in terms of their scats on the ground and things. So yeah, one of our wonderful bird species, because we're also so blessed to have so many birds. All right, make our way in there. Well, folks, that sort of wraps us up for an extremely mini animal tour, but obviously from our side, we really hope to see you all again soon. And obviously we've had it pretty lucky in Tasmania. It's been run very, very well here, where, you wouldn't even know there's COVID here, to be honest. We're all walking around kissing strangers and all sorts of things. So it's we have just been so lucky with how it's been run down here, but obviously following with friends in different places around the world and talking to different businesses, we know it's been a lot harder for some than others. And look, while financially we've all obviously taken a massive hit and we've had to navigate that very, very clearly, that pales into insignificance when we hear the horror stories about some of the areas and how sad it's been and family members being affected and things like that. So, really heartfelt. We want to send our best wishes to all of you over there, and know that you're all in our thoughts and that we are waiting here with open arms to see you again in the future. And if you're coming to Australia, make sure you consider little Tasmania to come and have a visit. But as you'll all know, anywhere you want to go in Australia, it's always just a wonderful trip. It is where we do most of our holidaying, is around various parts of Australia. So, we're really excited to see you all, and hope you enjoyed meeting a few of our little creatures today.
Thank you so much, Greg. One last question before I let you go. You did mention you rescued a platypus. Do you have platypuses in your sanctuary as well?
No, we actually don't at the moment. There is a place that does house them in Tasmania called the Platypus House, which is a good one to have on the itinerary. Look, we've got there are wild ones around here. There's a place called Mount Field National Park where you can see them quite readily at different times of the day and night if you're there for a couple of days. But it's very rare to get one that could live a happy life in captivity that can't be released back to the wild. So, I'm sure one day that will be the case. But that's sort of our main criteria, I guess, for an animal staying. Look, the platypus have had their own struggles. They've got a fungal disease that's been affecting them as well for a number of years now. So yeah, look, we do get the odd platypus call that needs assistance and things, but you don't get a lot of calls for them. You don't see them injured very often.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We just wish you all the very, very best. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge and your passion. And I really do hope that we get to see you in person sometime soon. And so just again, thank you so much. Enjoy your day. We would love to spend the whole day with you, but you probably have lots of stuff to do. So thank you again. And it was just great to see you. And thanks everyone who attended. All your questions were fabulous. So enjoy the rest of your day, Greg, and Rhonda, have a good evening, and everybody else who attended, have a great evening.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks again, Greg. Enjoy your day.
Take
care
care.
now.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.